the greatest sports debate show on the
For the first time since 2016, we have got a Game 7 in the NBA Finals.
championship rings, starring
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. They won the championship ring.
Georgia.
I am loving this feud. Don't you dare shit on this. Don't you dare.
I'm gonna shit on the stipulation of it.
Oh my God, the stipulation is fantastic.
Now,
Dude, this has got to be one of the weirdest weeks of NFL football I have ever seen. First of all, we had a team nearly stay undefeated, but you got to hold on to the football. Instead, he gets called for holding. The Bengals get absolutely smashed, and I think a team won without having a single passing yard in the second half.
Yeah, that happened, and something else happened, Josh, on a Sunday night. This game ended in a tie.
The Micah Parsons Bowl ends in a 40-40 tie. So wait, the Packers didn't win, the Cowboys didn't win, but neither team lost. What?
The funny thing is, tell me if you feel the same way. I feel like the Cowboys, even though the score did not indicate, obviously, win-loss, to me, that's a win for the Cowboys and a wash for the Packers.
I hate getting into this whole moral victory discussion. I really hate it because there's no such thing as a moral victory or a moral loss. But
if you're a bad football team, there is such thing as a moral victory, I would argue. I agree there's no such thing as moral losses. There are more instances where there's moral victories than there are moral losses. And I said going into the game, I said, be very careful about thinking Green Bay was just going to go in and smash Dallas, because that's what everybody was saying on the talk shows all week. Cowboys were going to hear that. Cowboys were going to play well. I thought Green Bay would win relatively close. I did not think it was going to be a blowout until it was 14-3 early. And it looked like a blowout was on the board. All of a sudden, the Cowboys get the strip sack of Jordan Love. They go down, they score, and they score, 9 points in the span of 43 seconds, and they lead at halftime.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Dak Prescott looked fantastic in this game. Him and George Pickens looked like a deadly combo. I wonder how that's going to work once CeeDee Lamb gets back. Because, CD's going to obviously be reinstalled as the number one. Pickens probably won't get as many targets. So how's that chemistry going to get affected? But I'll tell you what, Micah Parsons, although he didn't have a major impact on the game, I thought he made the game-saving play for the Packers when he sacked Dak Prescott, who looked like he had a clear shot at the end zone late in that game.
Yeah, that definitely, is one of the reasons why the game went to overtime. And my biggest takeaway from this game is actually all off season, even before the Michael Barton trade even happened, we all said the Cowboys are not going to be a good football team because they have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, yes, but they don't have a run game. Dak Prescott is coming off a second surgery, and their head coach is Brian Schottenheimer, who had never been a head coach in his many years in the National Football League. And yet, the Dallas Cowboys are, for one, very buttoned up. Unlike the Mike McCarthy era, they do not commit a lot of penalties. Dak Prescott is playing at the level that he played at in 2021, 2022, when he was in MVP consideration. And Brian Schottenheimer has this team ready to play from jump.
He really does. And, you and I both had the Packers in the Super Bowl when we did our preview show before the start of the season. I have them winning it. You have them losing to the Buffalo Bills. And right now, the Packers have kind of hit a bit of a speed bump, losing strangely to the Cleveland Browns last week. And then, like you said, everybody expected them to win this game fairly easily against the Cowboys, but it ends in a tie. And yet,
Here's the one thing, though, I will say they get to recalibrate now because their bye week is this week. And then they go home and they take on a Bengals team who, ever since Joe Burrow went down in week 2 against Jacksonville, has looked absolutely lifeless.
yeah, Detroit is favored by like 10.5.
Yes.
That's hilarious.
And by the way, that's in Cincinnati. When's the last time in the NFL you've seen a team on the road be favored by double digits? I mean, think about this. Even Buffalo this past weekend was favored by 15.5 against the Saints, and they didn't cover. And they were at home. So, I don't know. My takeaway from this is I still think the Cowboys are somewhat a third-place team, but are they like an 8-9 win team instead of what we thought, a 4-5 win team?
I think the Cowboys definitely caught a break thanks to MetLife Stadium, and I think the New York Giants are cursed because Jackson Dart played really well, but then, of course, they lost Malik Neighbors. So I think that puts the Giants into 4th place because if he had stayed healthy, I think there was a chance the Giants could have still overtaken the Cowboys for 3rd.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, so Dallas, I believe their next 2 games are against the Jets. I know it is this Sunday, but I believe the one after that's Carolina. After that, it gets really tough for Dallas. So if the Cowboys are going to make any sort of run this year for a potential wild card spot, they have to win these next 2 games.
Yeah, which who knows with Carolina? They win 30-0 and then get spanked by the Patriots.
Well, and then they get the Dolphins, and who knows what the Dolphins are. Obviously, they beat the Jets last night in a not very entertaining ball game. Who knows? But a team that should be very concerned at 1-3, Josh, the team that got absolutely smoked by the Kansas City Chiefs Sunday in Arrowhead. It was easily Patrick Mahomes, his best game in a Chiefs uniform in easily a couple of seasons. And it looks like to me that Lamar Jackson may not even play in this game Sunday against the Texans. It sounds like it's going to be Cooper Rush because Houston is favored by 1.5 right now.
If I had to guess, Lamar's going to miss a couple weeks, honestly. And remember how the Houston wait, who was it that was injured? Remember how the San Francisco 49ers were injured to all hell and back last year?
And you can make a case they are this year as well.
Yes, but my point here is it feels like the Baltimore Ravens are the AFC's version of the San Francisco 49ers, at least for this season.
Yeah, the weird thing about the Ravens is, up until week 3, you didn't really notice it because they played so well against Buffalo week 1, even though they lost. They beat the Browns handily in week 2. And then they come out Monday.
Impressive.
And then they come out Monday night against the Lions and they look flat. And so you think, okay, they're going into Kansas City. They may not win, but at least it's probably going to be a competitive game. And by the halftime, let's be honest, that game was over.
Yeah. Mahomes found his groove. And given the Chargers' offensive line issues, Mahomes could very easily come back and win this division.
And here's the weird thing about Baltimore is they caught a huge break of the fact that Joe Burrow got hurt for the Bengals because they're sitting there at 1-3. The Browns are not going anywhere. It sounds like the quarterback out of Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, may be playing this Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings.
Finally!
Do we really? I know we have a separate topic on this, so we'll get to it. But do we really believe in the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, is it fathomable that, let's say, even if Cooper Rush plays this week and the Ravens fall to 1-4, I don't think it's out of the question they can still win the division.
I mean, like you said, the Browns are going nowhere. Maybe that's why the Browns are playing in London, is because the U.S. lost the Ryder Cup, so this is our payback. I'm starting to think that's what it is. But the Bengals are pathetic. They may end up trading Trey Hendrickson, for God's sakes. And like you said, we'll get to this, but I don't know with the Steelers. But after the Texans, they've got the Rams at home.
And that's the team that the Rams almost beat them. Remember, a couple years ago was the pump walk-off return, and the Rams are obviously playing very well. They get the Niners this week on a Thursday night. I said going into the year, that's one of the reasons why I had the Ravens as a wild card team at 10-7. It's one of the reasons why I did not have them winning the division because of this murderer's row of a schedule. Are you surprised? I think one of the earliest trends so far in the NFL season is the running backs that went crazy last year. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. They are not having the success they had a year ago. It seems to me like Baltimore, as soon as they get behind right now, they are immediately panicking and stop giving Derrick Henry the run.
I think a lot of that is because teams are making adjustments with a lot of these great running backs, whether it's Saquon, whether it's Josh Jacobs, because I would consider him to be one of the great running backs currently, or King Henry, for that matter. Teams are stacking the box more and saying, no, you're not beating us. Which with the Ravens, that's usually a bad recipe because Lamar can beat you with his legs or with his passing ability. But that hasn't really been the case this season.
And he's also been hesitant to run. I've noticed that in games too, where it feels like there's open lanes and he's still dancing, trying to find a potential receiver open down the field instead of just taking off. I haven't seen him be as effective of a runner since the week 1 game against Buffalo. Again, maybe the hamstring injury's got something to do with that because he went out of the game. He popped up real quick on that injury. He did not look like he was favoring anything.
Yeah, I agree. But the only reason the Ravens are ahead of the Browns is because they beat them week 2. Think about that. The Ravens have the same record as the Browns.
You're right.
Does that say more about the Browns or does that say more about the Ravens?
I think that definitely says way more about the Ravens, who, believe it or not, the Ravens have had a historic defense since they became a franchise in 1995, I should say. We all remember the 2000 defense that won the Super Bowl. They are almost second to last or dead last in every single category. At Deke Bay, the defensive lineman's out for the year. Roquan Smith, the middle linebacker, is going to be out multiple weeks. Marlon Humphrey went down. Their defense is being put together by duct tape right now, and I think that's the bigger story because until like 3/4 of the way through last year, if you remember, their defense was also getting torched.
Yeah. I think losing Mike McDonald has had a bigger impact than we thought.
For sure. I mean, listen, I'm going to get to this in a little bit. I think you were right on Seattle. I don't understand them, and I'll get to that when we get to our other takeaways, but I think you're right. I think Baltimore is clearly missing Mike McDonald.
Yeah, and their new defensive coordinator, I think his name's Zach Orr, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. He was a former linebacker for the Ravens.
Yeah. You have the pieces when they're healthy, and yet it's not clicking. Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, and Ed Reed must be looking at this defense and going, what the hell is this?
Well, Kyle Hamilton's also been banged up the whole year, so they are literally missing the best 3 to 4 players on that defense.
Like I said, Ray Lewis especially has got to be looking at this and being like, what the hell is this? This is not Baltimore Ravens football.
Speaking of what the hell was this, that was my reaction the whole second half of this Eagles-Buccaneers game that took place on Sunday. And the Eagles' offense over the last 4 halves of football, I can't explain it to you. The first half of the Rams game and the second half of the Bucs game, they can't move the ball if they wanted to. And the second half of the Rams game and the first half against the Bucs game, they couldn't be stopped.
Yeah, this has to be one of the most confounding and confusing 4-0 teams I have ever seen. Because you got like A.J. Brown tweeting, Bible verses or whatever.
Now that I don't really care about, to be honest with you. I think the media is making that a bigger story than what it should be. I get it. A.J. Brown last week had 2 catches for 7 yards, and he is a wide receiver. I understand that whole perspective. But it is also not like outside of week 1, they're not trying to get him the ball. He had 8 targets in week 2. He had 9 targets in week 3, and he had 10 targets in this game against Tampa. The problem from what I'm seeing is what the Rams did in the first half and what the Bucs did in the second half of that Eagles game was, number one, Lane Johnson once again goes out. Kevin Steen, our right guard, went out on Sunday as well. So there's a whole new right side of the offensive line in there. And they are sending 10 players on a blitz. They are saying, we are stopping Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. We're going to leave your receivers one-on-one on the outside. And the Eagles' offensive line, which has been elite, it's been top 2, I would argue the number 1 offensive line in the NFL, really over the past decade. They have not done a good job this year at picking up pressure. It's forcing Jalen Hurts to get rid of the ball more quickly. It's forcing him to be inaccurate. And that's what's causing, I think, the misconnection with A.J. Brown is they want to take these shots down the field. But when they dial it up, it's either the pressure gets home and Jalen can't get the ball off, or they are anticipating man coverage. They are getting zone coverage, and Jalen can't find A.J. Brown over the top. Because when you go back and you see the all-22, you can see they are sending A.J. Brown on deep routes. Either Jalen Hurts just isn't pulling the trigger or he's not connecting with it.
I think part of the reason Jalen isn't pulling the trigger, I don't know what a trigger is, but either way, I want to know if you agree with me on this. Jalen Hurts has never really been a risk-taking quarterback. And I feel like this Eagles offense has never really been a risk-taker type of offense. Do you agree with me on that one?
So I kind of do. In 2023, he took a lot of risks because he was trying to validate the fact that he got paid the big contract, and it led to the 15 interceptions. It led to the historic collapse, obviously. And Jalen, I think he threw 4 or 5 interceptions for the first 4 weeks of last year. Then at the bye week, remember last year, week 5 was our bye week. At 2-2, they changed the entire offense. It was way more Saquon Barkley dependent. And I think now they have drilled it into Jalen Hurts' head that we have such a good defense, you don't need to turn the football over. If it's not there, check it down to Saquon or run and slide, and we'll put the ball, we'll play good defense. As long as we turn the football over, we should be able to win the game.
And that's where I think part of the problem is that it's been so ingrained in Jalen's head that we have such a good defense. You don't need to take the big shot. You don't need to go after A.J. Brown or Devontae. That, he's not willing to take the big shot. At least.
Yes, and the other thing is, too, they were more aggressive in the Super Bowl year when we lost to Kansas City, Super Bowl 57 under Shane Steichen. That was the first year A.J. Brown was there. One, because Miles Sanders wasn't as explosive a running back as Saquon Barkley. But 2, nobody saw Jalen Hurts be a deep ball thrower down the field before, and they took advantage of it, and he was a very accurate deep ball thrower. Last year, same thing, where they would, they'd run the ball with Saquon, and then once teams would come down, they would take their shot over the top, and Jalen was very good at it last year. Now they're saying, you know what? We don't care how good of a thrower you are. We're going to make sure you don't even throw the ball deep because we are going to send every single person at Saquon Barkley, who's been getting hit way behind the line of scrimmage way too much, and it's throwing off the rhythm of the offense. But again, maybe it's just a fan in me. It's hard to criticize the Eagles when they have literally almost put on a historic feat in the NFL where they have only lost 1 total game, including the regular and postseason, in the last 365 days. Their last loss outside of the Bucs game last year on September 29th. So 366 days ago was the game at Washington when Jalen Hurts got hurt in the first quarter. We were up 21-7 in that game, and then Jaden Daniels makes the incredible comeback.
Yeah. Teams have definitely made an adjustment defensively and are playing Saquon differently. I'll give you that. But it feels like Jalen isn't making those adjustments to what the defenses have done in terms of their adjustments. And
I'll counter that by saying they made the adjustment against the Rams. They clearly did. It was a different game plan. And they came out in the first half against Tampa, and it was a completely different game plan. They threw the ball. What happened was, again, to both of our earlier points, they got up so big, 23-7 at halftime. It's like they basically went in a shell in the second half and said, there's no way our defense can give up 16 points a game. Let's just not turn the football over and we'll win the game.
And I think part of that is Tampa went into the locker room at halftime. They made adjustments. You guys, I felt like, did not counter those adjustments.
And I agree with that. However, I will say this. The only way the Bucs technically scored 2 touchdowns in the second half were on 2 fluky long plays by Baker Mayfield. Because if you think about it, their 2 touchdowns in that game was the incredible throw to Ibuka, which Reed Blankenship mistimed his jump on her. That would have probably been an incomplete pass. And the other one was when Baker just bought time in the pocket, shrugged off a couple of potential sacks, and threw the ball down the left sideline to Rashard White. Those 2 big strides are the only way Tampa Bay scored touchdowns the entire game.
I understand that, but again, it goes back to my bigger point. Tampa made adjustments, and you guys did it.
I agree, but again, it goes back to the Eagles' point, which was they can make all the adjustments in the world they want, even if it did come down to a final possession and defense stop. They felt like they were in control of the game. And this team now, in my opinion, against very quality opponents, Kansas City, the Rams, and Tampa now back-to-back weeks, they have shown different ways to win. They can show we can throw on you early, we can throw late, we can run late, we can win with defense. They are basically turning into, Josh, last year's Chiefs, which is they're going to be ridiculed. Everybody's going to say they're not that good because they're winning all these one-possession games, or they're a lucky team, but yet they just keep on winning.
Right. I'm not trying to say that they're a fluky 4-0 to start the season. That's not what I'm trying to get at here. But like I said, they are one of the most confusing and confounding 4-0 teams. It makes no sense. It feels like they are missing Kellen Moore more than we initially thought. You knew it was going to be a big
miss Kellen Moore. I liked Kevin Patullo, but I was if you recall, to the Super Bowl, I said I thought it was a mistake for Kellen Moore to take the Saints job. I wanted Kellen Moore back. Now, again, I think the offense is going to take time because if you remember, I keep pointing to this. Everybody keeps forgetting that last year's Eagles started off 3-2, and they almost lost to Deshaun Watson's Browns in Week 6. This Eagles team did not take off last year till Week 7 when they pummeled the Giants and Saquon Barkley's return to the Meadowlands.
Yes, that part is true. I get it. And you saw it with Detroit. Like, we were, after Week 1, we were like, what is going on with the Lions? And yet they're now firing on all cylinders.
Yep. So, okay. I mentioned this ordered earlier. I want to get to our segment that's the other takeaways from Week 4 of the 2025 NFL season. So I've been saying this over the past few weeks, and I think a lot of people disagree with me, but I think there have been less surprises in the NFL in terms of the big picture than usual throughout the past 4 weeks of the season. There are not a ton of surprises to me. Maybe the AFC North a little bit. That Pittsburgh's 3-1, Baltimore's 1-3. Yes, it's a little bit of a surprise, but also Baltimore has the injuries excuse on defense. The Colts and Jaguars are better in the AFC South than we both thought. The Texans are worse. But to me, And they're good. And he's playing really well. And they may end up being a playoff team. I don't understand the Seattle Seahawks. And I don't think I ever will. And the reason I say that is because I look at their roster, and you can argue with me about JSN. You can argue with me about Tariq Woolen and Devin Witherspoon. But the problem I have with Seattle is, show me their truly defined great top 5 player at a position on their roster. And I don't think they have one. I think every other team in the league, even the bad teams like the Browns, Myles Garrett is obviously a top 5 defensive end in the league. Even Arizona, Trey McBride, he's a top 3-4 tight end in the NFL today. I don't think Seattle has a guy that you can go to at that position and go, oh yeah, he's one of the best. Jackson Smith and Jigba, probably in the top 10, maybe 9 or 10, but you don't think of him as like, oh my God, he's this great number 1 wide receiver. That's where I struggle with Seattle. I think it's a bunch of good players.
Well, they've got Tampa Bay this week, so we're going to find out more about them because they've got Tampa this week, then they're at Jacksonville next week. So that's an interesting little 2-game stretch, and then they host Houston. And then they go into their bye week, followed by at Washington on Sunday Night Football. So there you go. They play the Rams week 11, and then they will host the Rams in week 16 on Thursday Night Football. But speaking of the Rams, A.D. Mitchell, all you had to do was hold on to the freaking football. It's right there. Just go into the end zone.
Yeah, this remains a mystery to me, and I don't want to come across as douches, if you will, but I know I'm going to sound like the NFL stands for the No Fun Week, but I'm not the biggest fan of touchdown celebrations. I think it's kind of useless. I think it wastes a lot of energy. And I think this is inexcusable to me. You score the touchdown. I don't buy all the dancing, all the selling, and all this stuff. You score a touchdown, you lay the ball down, you go back to the bench because football is hard.
Okay. Well, to add on to it, Jonathan Taylor breaks away for a go-ahead touchdown, what could have been the game-winning touchdown. And, well, A.D. Mitchell turned out to hold something. It was just the wrong thing. Maybe that didn't sound right, but you know what I mean? Because he got called for holding.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Listen, I mean, the Colts, though, listen, that could have been a game. The Rams could have blew out the Colts. You could have said, okay, the Colts Cinderella run is over. That's a game where you walk away if you're a Colts fan or the Colts and you go, we're legit contenders in the AFC South. We almost beat the Rams, and we arguably should have in Los Angeles.
Yes. And, well, the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the other hand, got...
Yeah, that was my upset pick of the week. I like Jacksonville to go into San Francisco and win that game. I didn't see a ton of upsets on the board personally this week, but that was one of them. And the one thing with the Jaguars is that nobody is really talking about is 2 things. Number one, their defense last year was horrific. And it's not great this year, but what they are doing is they're getting turnovers at opportunistic times. They forced 3 turnovers, including the strip sack at the end of the game on Brock Purdy to win that game for Jacksonville.
Yes.
The other thing is this. We talked about this a little bit about Liam Cohen and is he the right guy for Trevor Lawrence after what he did with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, we were talking about what happened in that Cincinnati game where Liam Cohen was getting all emotional and Trevor Lawrence was like this. Yeah.
Yeah, but as I said at the time, that's also players' mentality. But the thing is, think about this. They have not really yet implemented Travis Hunter or even Brian Thomas that crazily yet into this offense, and they're putting up points.
I cannot wait for this Monday night game. Spoiler alert, I have it at number 1 on my top 5 list.
Wow. Yeah, I will say the games this week, when we get to our top 5, it is not a great week. I will say that.
Yes. But, to add on to everything with the Jaguars and 49ers, the Jaguars were accused of legally stealing signs or something.
I didn't see this. You want to fill me in? I did not see this.
Yeah, like Robert Saleh, I think it was saying the Jaguars are like stealing signs. It was what I'm trying to. Yeah, like Robert Saleh and
So apparently Saleh and Liam Cohen met up after the game, and Robert Saleh said, "I will F your world up."
yes. Yeah, they had to be separated.
That's
because,
a weird.
Because Robert Saleh made remarks earlier in the week about the Jaguars legally stealing signs from opponents spilled onto the field Sunday.
That is a strange story because Robert Saleh is never really a guy that gets fired up and gets angry. That seems like a very strange story.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of details about it, but like saying the Jaguars are legally stealing signs.
By the way, bad job of the sports media world to not cover this story, by the way.
I agree with you on that one.
Because no one's talking about that. I didn't even hear about it.
Yeah. But, my other big takeaway with this week, really, to go back to our first topic, maybe the Dallas Cowboys are better than we thought, but you look at what we've got in the NFL, I'm disappointed in the New York Jets. I would have thought they'd be better, but then again, it's the Jets, so why should I be surprised?
That's what I'm saying. Like, even the teams that we thought, like, oh, the Jets could be better. Like, it's the Jets. You kind of expect that to happen. I will say, let me say this. We are now 25% of the way through the end of the season. I guess a little bit less because we have 18 weeks or whatever you want to call it. I think the most underplayed story so far this season has nothing to do with any NFL team. I think through 4 weeks in the NFL, early on, I would say seriously about 80% of these games are being defined by special teams.
Yeah, I agree.
The kickoff change has been tremendous. And I got to give the NFL full credit because I did not think it had that big of an impact. It has changed the way you feel about kickoffs. It has completely made the kickoff a must-watch play again. And with these blocked kicks, whether it's been punts, extra points, field goal attempts, they are completely changing not only momentum in games, they're deciding who wins and who loses games.
Yeah. And here's my other big takeaway, because I want to focus on two teams, the Patriots and the Falcons. Because with the Falcons, they get blown out 30-0 against the Carolina Panthers. And I get it. They were playing Marcus Mariota, not Jaden Daniels, and Washington didn't have Terry McLaurin. But still, to come out and put up 34 at home, but for me, that's still impressive considering, again, they got blown out 30-0. And then with the Patriots, you, for example, had questions about Drake May going into this season and the Patriots overall. I had them making the playoffs. You did not. And then they come out and absolutely put on a clinic against the Carolina Panthers, putting up 42 points. And you're like, where has this offense been the first 3 weeks?
How about where's this offense been in the last 5 years for New England?
Yeah.
And I think that the biggest thing for them was they did not commit turnovers. Ramondre Stevenson did not fumble. They did not commit costly penalties.
They actually used Travion Henderson this game.
Yeah, it's the 1 week I have him on my bench in fantasy football because he didn't do anything the first 3 weeks. So I decided to bench him and he ended up scoring. What are you going to do? I wasn't that surprised by Atlanta because, one of my rules are if you're a good team and you get embarrassed, if you're coming back home in a dome where Michael Penix seems to be very comfortable in a dome setting. I thought Atlanta was going to play well. I thought Washington doing what they did to Vegas last week was sort of smoke and mirrors. And now we get to see how good Washington really is when they go up against a banged up Chargers team, because I know everybody fell in love with the Commanders last year because of what they did in getting to the NFC Championship game. I still am very suspect of that team's ability to get back to the playoffs.
Yeah. So with the Falcons, they're on their bye week, and then they host the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. That is going to be a very interesting game. Especially because Buffalo is going to be coming off Sunday Night Football against a divisional opponent in the New England Patriots. And Atlanta's coming off their bye. How's that game going to play out?
I agree with you. But let's go to the AFC North. We're going to go back to it because are they really in the driver's seat to win this division?
For right now, I kind of have to say yes, because they're on their bye week, and then next week they host the Browns, who it sounds like are going to be starting a rookie quarterback in Dylan Gabriel. I thought the Browns would wait until week 7 when they host the Miami Dolphins.
You and I both did.
Yeah. I didn't think it was smart to start Dylan Gabriel at home. Don't get me started on that, because I could go on a tangent for days, against Brian Flores' defense. But in terms of the Steelers, yeah, I mean, they looked good offensively against the Vikings in Ireland this past week. Aaron Rodgers, at least to a certain extent, seems to have found the fountain of youth. DK Metcalf has finally put it together and is like, oh, that's the receiver we saw in Seattle. So, to a certain extent, I kind of have to say yes. Okay.
I just wanted to look this up to confirm. I believe this is right. This Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, Dylan Gabriel will become the first ever quarterback in the history of the NFL to make his NFL debut, his first ever start overseas.
Unbelievable.
So it is weird, and I agree with you that I think that for right now, you have to say the Steelers are in the driver's seat. That we said going into the year, are they going to be 9-8? Are they going to be 8-9? I think Joe Burrow's injury pushes them from 9-8 to probably 10-7. They had a weird loss week 2 against Seattle where they just forgot the special teams rule on the kickoff, which completely flipped momentum of that game. New England played them very tough in week 3, but the Steelers defense did force 5 turnovers. And then that game in Ireland on Sunday, Josh, I got to tell you this. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic at all when I make this statement. That was the best Pittsburgh Steelers game they have played since 2020.
Interesting.
They actually were able to run the football, blow the Minnesota Vikings defensive line off the ball with Kenneth Gainwell, not even Jaylen Warren in the backfield. It was a very good game plan by Arthur Smith. Give the ball to Aaron Rodgers' hands early. Don't want him to stand in the pocket. Don't want him to get in against that attacking, aggressive defense. And then that defensive line absolutely tore apart the Vikings offensive line and Carson Wentz. That was a vintage Steelers football game. And Dylan Gabriel, week 6, you better be ready. You better be wearing a Guardian cap if you think that's going to protect your head. You better be wearing some extra duct tape underneath your pads because he is going to get hit. I don't think there's any way the Browns upset Pittsburgh coming off their bye in Pittsburgh. I think the Steelers move to 4-1. And if the Ravens do play Cooper Rush and they lose to the Texans and are 1-4, it's almost mathematically impossible for anybody else to come back and win the division at that point.
Yeah. You look at the Steelers' upcoming schedule. They're on their bye week. Then they host the Browns, who have to play the Vikings in London this week and then turn around and play at the Steelers. And then they play at the Bengals on Thursday Night Football. Not that hard. Then you have the Aaron Rodgers Bowl because they host Green Bay on Sunday Night Football. Then they host Indianapolis. And then they're at the Chargers. And then they host the Bengals.
I mean, there might be 3 to 4 washes there, maybe Packers, maybe Chargers, but that's some winnable games there for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, they could beat the Colts.
At home. You said that game's in Pittsburgh, right?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that makes a big difference in my opinion. If it was in Indianapolis, I think it'd be more dicey, but the fact that it's in Pittsburgh, I hate to say it, I don't know if they're going to win a playoff game, but I think we were all wrong. And I think injuries, unfortunately, decided this division. I think the Steelers are going to win it.
Yeah. As of right now, I don't see the Steelers' toughest game being until week 13 when they host the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. And remember that game in 2020, week 1, when they went into Buffalo and won?
Yeah.
We saw what happened a couple years ago in the playoffs. I don't know if they could face Buffalo again and win, but that's not the here nor there.
Yeah, that game is in Pittsburgh, by the way. But like I said, you look at their schedule, like Green Bay, okay. The Chargers, given their offensive line issues, Pittsburgh should have their way defensively with LA.
I was trying to find out the word on Joe Alt. Did we hear what the update is on Joe Alt?
I have not heard, but the Chargers, to kind of go back to our biggest takeaways, the Chargers' offensive line is just beaten to all hell and back.
Guy Becton, their right guard, is also hurt, by the way.
Yeah, Justin Herbert. It's like they saw what he did in the first 2 weeks and have just gone Justin Herbert crazy.
Well, they've had to because they can't run the ball because they don't have an offensive line.
Yeah, but I want to touch on this. Jackson Dart played well for the Giants.
I thought he played okay. I thought he played a really good first half. I did not think he played well in the second half, especially once neighbors left the game.
Yeah, that'll make a huge difference when your best player leaves the game with a torn ACL.
Absolutely, yeah. But I don't think it's sustainable. Like, I think the Giants could lose this weekend to the Saints. It would not surprise me.
I mean, the Saints
are favored. I mean, think about that. The Saints are favored in a football game.
Here's what I'll say about the Saints. They're not terrible, but they're not good. They're average.
They're pretty terrible who played an unbelievable game against Buffalo.
Well,
that's how I'll word it.
It came down to the wire against San Francisco, and they should have beaten Arizona week 1.
I could make a case Arizona had control of that game. San Francisco was a weird one because I don't really think San Francisco's that good. And who knows, maybe Arizona's not that good.
I've heard people saying San Francisco, when healthy, is a top 5 contender.
No, they're not. Because everybody loves Kyle Shanahan. Everybody loves the Niners. Oh, my God. They're not better than Philly. They're not better than Detroit. They're not better than Green Bay. They're not better than Tampa. They're not better than the Rams when healthy.
They might not be better than Seattle. Although
all they do is beat Seattle. That's the hard part.
That part is true. By the way, did you see that the 49ers Buccaneers game got flexed into the 4:30 slot?
I did see that. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the Bengals, I believe, are going to be playing the Packers, I believe, in that spot. Yes. And it's going to be Jake Browning. So
yes. Although I think it wasn't Bengals Packers that was flexed out of that 4:30 slot. It was a different game.
No, it was Patriots Saints. And that's because that game can obviously be a 1:00 game.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And yet, for some stupid reason, on my TV guide, instead of showing me 49ers Buccaneers, they're going to show me Bengals Packers. Yay!
That's because you're in the Ohio area, as am I. Let's get to our Week 5 games of the 2025 NFL season. Again, I think it's a very weird week. There's not one matchup that stands out that says, oh my God, this game's going to be incredible to me.
For me, there is one game that has that.
Okay, I'm going to let you start then.
Okay. So, number 5, I'm actually going to go with oh God. I have my number 1 and number 2 on lock. It's the rest of the list that I'm like, I don't know. But number 5, I'm going to go with the Commanders and the Chargers. I think this is a very interesting game. A lot of it depends on whether Terry McLaurin is back or not for Washington. But as we talked about, Washington is coming off of a tough loss on the road against Atlanta. Meanwhile, the Chargers lost their first game of the season, and they're dealing with offensive line issues. So this matchup comes at a very interesting time for both teams. Like you talked about, the Commanders, they had that Cinderella run to the NFC Championship, and now can they repeat that? Well, they don't have Jaden Daniels. They might not have Terry McLaurin. And after week 2, or week 3, I should say, we were all saying, oh, the Chargers could win this division in a runaway. And now they've come back down to earth a little bit. So for me, it's an intriguing game from that perspective. Number 4, I'm going to go with the AFC East Sunday Night Football battle. Patriots-Bills. For one, like I talked about, the Patriots seemed to figure it out offensively last week, but it was against the Panthers. Now you're taking a major step up by going on the road to Orchard Park against the team who has owned this division for the past few seasons. Prior to that, it was the Patriots division. So we're going to find out a lot about the Patriots in this game. I think I'm more interested in this game because of the Patriots side of the equation. We know who the Buffalo Bills are. We know who Josh Allen is. But we don't quite know who the Patriots are yet. We don't quite know who Drake May is. So for me, that puts it right in the intrigue line. Number 3 for me, Thursday Night Football, Battle of California, 49ers, Rams. The Rams really should have lost that game against the Indianapolis Colts if A.D. Mitchell just simply does not get called for a holding penalty, or if he freaking holds on to the ball when he goes into the end zone. So the Rams really got lucky in that game. Meanwhile, the 49ers lost at home against the Jaguars. And whenever the 49ers play the Rams in SoFi, it basically feels like a 49ers home game. They're playing on a short week. Do the Rams stay hot and keep up this momentum? Can the 49ers overcome some of their injuries? And then number 2 for me, I'm going to Well, as of right now, it's a 4 o'clock game, but depending on what the Seattle Mariners do, the game could get moved. We don't know because, Lumen Field and T-Mobile Park are right next to each other. And both teams are going to be wearing their throwback jerseys. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Seattle Seahawks. Tampa Bay coming off of a game I think they very well could have won against your Philadelphia Eagles. And then you got the Seahawks who won at the buzzer against the Arizona Cardinals on Thursday Night Football. So I want to know, how does that help the Seahawks? The fact that they played on Thursday Night Football, they get all this extra rest, whereas the Buccaneers were in a very physical, hard-fought matchup against the Eagles, and now they have to travel out west to take on the Seahawks. And number one for me, I said it earlier, I before the season, I would not have picked this game to be number one on my list, but you got the 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Duval to take on the 3-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. Kansas City seems to have gotten their groove back. Mahomes is playing fantastic with the likes of Xavier Worthy, who is back. You got this newfound connection with Mahomes and Thornton, and Rashid Rice is going to come back, which is going to add just another element. You got Isaiah Pacheco, who seems to be playing well again. Kareem Hunt is back in the groove. And, of course, you have the Kansas City defense led by Chris Jones. On the other side, Trevor Lawrence. He's playing well now under Liam Cohen, finally. And like you said, they haven't really featured Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas yet. And I like what they're doing running the ball with Travis Etienne. I thought it would be a bit of a risk to trade a backup running back. I get it, but it doesn't seem to have hurt them. And Josh Hines-Allen, I think he still plays for the Jaguars, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he does.
Okay. He's figured it out defensively. Not that he hadn't figured it out, but you know what I mean. And the Jaguars, they're coming back from playing on the West Coast. So how does that affect them playing on Monday Night Football against Kansas City? Side note, is it a coincidence that, you know, the Jaguars are playing on Monday Night Football, and then the very next night, AEW Dynamite is happening in Jacksonville? Tony Khan did that completely on purpose.
I don't know if Tony Khan has any sway on when the Jacksonville Jaguars play a Monday Night Football game. You could be right. We generally agree on the list this week. There's one big game that I have that you don't. And so we'll get to that. At number 5, originally, I agreed with you. I was going to have Niners at Rams Thursday Night Football game on this list. And I had it on the list. And then something came down about 4 o'clock today that Dylan Gabriel is starting for the Cleveland Browns. So I hate to say this, Josh, but the Browns have done the impossible. They made me want to get up at 9:30 on a Sunday morning to watch them, because Carson Wentz versus Dylan Gabriel, it may be bad television, it may be great television. I don't know. I want to see the kid. I want to see if I'm right that he's too small to play quarterback in the NFL. If I'm wrong, if I'm somewhere in between, he may just be a carbon copy of Tua Tagovailoa, which, for God's sakes, I hope he's not. I'd rather have him be terrible than have to live with Tua for your sake for the next 4 years. But that's what I want to see.
The fact that we're getting Carson Wentz against Dylan Gabriel is hilarious. I honestly thought going into the Steelers game next week, I thought it was going to be Joe Flacco against Aaron Rodgers, and I was prepared to just laugh my ass off.
Joe Flacco may never be getting off the couch of an NFL game ever again. We will see. At number 4, I agree with you on Commanders Chargers for all the reasons you said. Number 3, Bucs Seahawks. I agree with you for all the reasons you said. Number 2, Chiefs Jaguars. I agree with you for all the reasons you said. So that leaves one game. Number 1 top of the list. The 2-2 Denver Broncos are coming to Philly to take on the 4-0 Philadelphia Eagles. This is, in my opinion, a very interesting game for both of these franchises, because for the Eagles, and this is no disrespect to the Denver Broncos, but you had a very hard division rivalry game week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys where you knew they were going to give you every shot you get. Then you get a playoff stretch with the Chiefs, the Rams, and the Buccaneers back to back to back. Denver was a playoff team a year ago. They have not looked like a playoff team, and their 2 wins this year, let's face it, are against the Titans, who, well, they don't look very good.
They are
And
ruining Cam Ward before his career even gets started.
Tell me about it. And the Bengals, who did not look very good. So this is Bo Nix going on the road against a tough defense. This is Sean Payton coming back to Philly, a place where he's had some success in the past against the Eagles. And these two teams do not match up very much. The last time these two teams matched up in Philly was 2017, Week 9, when newly acquired Eagle Jay Ajayi went off on the Eagles' way to winning Super Bowl 52. So it's a different matchup. It's a matchup of two teams. Sean Payton seems to think his Broncos are a Super Bowl contender. I obviously disagree with that, but that's where we're at. And I think it's a very interesting game on Sunday with Jim Nantz and Tony Romo on the call for CBS.
Okay, that definitely adds some intrigue to it. I understand why you put that game at number 1. For me, Chiefs Jaguars, because I wasn't expecting the Jaguars to be 3-1, yet here they are. That's why I have that game at number 1. And by the way, I'm not trying to suggest Tony Khan had some say in the schedule making, but the fact that the Jaguars have a Monday night game and he just goes, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do AEW Dynamite in Jacksonville that week," it's the coincidence is ridiculous.
Well, Josh, you know what else is ridiculous? James Franklin can't win the big game.
That game just made me want to, as a Penn State fan, just made me want to cry.
I texted you the word James, period, Franklin, period. I felt so bad for you. First of all, I was sitting there going, how is this game 3-3 in the third quarter? And how is Penn State down 17-3? And how is this game in overtime? And then Penn State lost because James Franklin.
I think he's now 4-21 in top 10 matchups.
It's either 4-20 or 4-21. It's one of those numbers. Listen, I thought this was going to be the Ryan Day situation where everybody was getting pissed off at Ryan Day, and Ryan Day goes on to win the national championship and saves his job at Ohio State. If James Franklin doesn't win the national championship, there is no way I think he returns to Penn State at this point.
No, and we still have to go to Ohio State. Ohio State's going to smash Penn State. So,
it's not even, and James Franklin's an offensive guy. It's not even the defense that's the problem. It's the offense that's the problem. Drew Adler looked very shaky.
Well, he came on late, but here's the thing. They brought in 3 wide receivers via the transfer portal, and they're so reluctant to pass the ball. Penn State is so run dependent. It's not even funny. And Dante Moore on the other side for Oregon, he's a redshirt sophomore, I think it is, and he didn't look rattled at all by the whiteout.
No, I thought he played pretty well and made 2 big key throws down the field. Now, one of them, I don't remember what the score was. I think it was still 3-3. He rolls out to the right and he throws it. It was on a line to the receiver. There was clear holding on Oregon. I thought Oregon got away with 2 or 3 clear holding calls on big plays. They did not call back, but I didn't think that decided the game.
Yeah, but Oregon, they rightfully deserved to win that game because they looked like the better team. They made more plays than Penn State, and they won the line of scrimmage. And Penn State came out flat at home. Yes, in the whiteout. How do you come out that flat and look that inept offensively in the whiteout?
Well,
in a top 6 matchup. But
it wasn't a whiteout, but you could also, I was about to say, it was not a whiteout, but you could make the same case for Georgia, who came out flat, uninspired, at home, and Kirby Smart has yet now to defeat Alabama in the regular season. And we said it a couple weeks ago, this may be Alabama's worst season in forever. They lost to Florida State, who also just lost.
Yeah, Alabama benefited greatly. Check this out. everybody thought for sure ESPN College Game Day was going to be in Tallahassee, Florida for this week for Miami against Florida State. But once Florida State lost and Alabama won, guess where College Game Day is going to be this week? Tuscaloosa, Alabama for Vanderbilt against Alabama.
Vanderbilt's undefeated in the SEC.
When was the last time Vanderbilt was featured on College Game Day? I've been watching the show for years, and I don't remember Vanderbilt ever being featured on College Game Day.
Last year, I didn't even know Vanderbilt had a football team until Diego Pavia beat Alabama.
Yeah. But you know what Alabama should be saying to Georgia? The same chant Yankees fans were chanting to Pedro Martinez when he pitched for the Boston Red Sox. Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? Because Alabama owns Georgia. They freaking threw a screen pass to a lineman.
Yeah, to a 375-pound offensive lineman, and he legitimately almost scored. And Ty Simpson, you know how I felt about the way Jalen Milroe played last year against Georgia. I thought Ty Simpson got himself an NFL job last night. Like, whenever he's ready, I know he's probably a year or so away, that kid's going to play in the NFL based on the way he played Saturday night.
He probably put himself right back in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, the Heisman conversation is weird this year. There's not really any player going off. The college football this year almost feels like Major League Baseball, where it's very balanced. Like, Ohio State's good. They beat an okay Washington team on the road. We still don't know how good Ohio State really is. We're not going to find out until they play Penn State.
Yeah. We could find out how good they are when they play at Illinois, I guess.
Oh, Illinois. I mean, they barely beat USC. I will say that kid for USC, the quarterback, is very impressive.
Yes. But like Ohio State hosts Minnesota this week on prime time. Whoop-de-frickin' do. Ohio State's going to destroy them.
The other thing is, right, early in the year, Nussmeier, the kid from LSU, the quarterback, was a leading Heisman candidate. What the hell happened to LSU? They completely were out of sorts against Ole Miss.
Oh, yeah. Ole Miss looks legit. Their starting quarterback should be in the Heisman Trophy discussion. I forget his name off the top of my head, but so you'll have to forgive me on that one. But Ole Miss looks legit right now. And then you go to Florida State against Virginia. I think Florida State got caught looking ahead to that Miami game. The fact that it was a Friday night in Charlottesville, Virginia's not really a football school. They're more of a basketball school. So I think they got caught looking ahead to that Miami showdown. But give credit to Virginia. They took it to Florida State. By the way, I loved that the ACC allowed us as the fans to actually hear everything in terms of the replay. Yes. I loved that, especially on that play where Castellanos, or however you say it, throws it to the wide receiver late in that game, and he bobbles it. It looked like he made the catch. They called it a touchdown, and they let us hear everything into why they eventually overturned it.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion yet on college football as a whole this year, besides the fact that I don't think Arch Manning's very good, and I think Ohio State's probably the best team in the country, but I don't know yet.
So far, that Texas win doesn't look nearly as impressive now for Ohio.
No, it doesn't. And again, we're going to see if Texas can bounce back. I believe it's 2 weeks, the Red River rivalry game against Oklahoma.
Yes, which John Mateer is now injured for Oklahoma, so we'll see how the Sooners are.
It's a weird year. Again, and this is one of my issues with college football, is we're last week we had such a good weekend, right? We had 3 or 4 top 15 matchups with such a great weekend. Then the next week, you lose all that momentum.
Yeah, I agree. there's not really one game that you're like, oh my God, I have to watch that.
Kirk Herbstreit was saying this the other day, that college football needs a commissioner and it needs a scheduling committee, and I completely agree with him.
I do like that the SEC is going to this nine opponent system, and they're going to have like each team has 3 teams that they're going to play every season.
If I was the commissioner, this is what I would do. Week 1, I'd create every possible top 10 matchup I could. Week two is your cupcake game. That's it. You get one cupcake. It's week 2 at home, and then you take your bye either week 3 or week 4. But starting in like this week, it's all conference play, and you just like they're doing in the SEC now. But you get the major conference games every single week. We spread them out a little bit. So, like, last week would have been Alabama, Georgia. This week could have been Oregon, Penn State. Like the NFL does. Like somebody pointed this out. Could you imagine the NFL putting on Packers, Cowboys, and Ravens, Chiefs at the same time? No, they would never, because they're big brands.
Yeah. And the other thing I like about the NFL schedule is like you play your division opponents once at home, once on the road.
Yes.
I get that college football has tried divisions and they don't really do that. But it would kind of be cool to have Ohio State play Penn State in Columbus, and in that same season also have to play in Penn State. Why not?
I agree. I always thought take your major rival. So I always thought like whatever the rivalry weekend is. So for Ohio State, that's Michigan. I always thought one of them play 2 times a year. Once at the beginning of the year and once at the end of the year.
Yeah, I get that. I disagree with, because you want it to be that you have bragging rights for whoever wins.
But again, this is a new era in college football. College football has no traditions left. And everybody's trying to hang on to the last weekend and the Iron Bowl and Ohio State, Michigan. Well, guess what? Those games are only good if the teams are good. Both of them. The Iron Bowl hasn't meant jack crap in 5 years.
Oh, I still love the Iron Bowl. That's still one of my favorite rivalries.
Okay, but you're a rivalry guy. Is the game good guy. I don't care about a rivalry, because at the time in college football, if you're not a good football team, like in the NFL, a bad team can beat a good team. In college football, it doesn't work like that.
Well, it can, not very often, though.
That's what I'm saying, but not very often. All right. Well, Josh, I see you got this on the rundown. I'm interested in this. What is this women's basketball news?
Well, first of all, tonight we have Game 5 between the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces to see who will take on the Phoenix Mercury in the 2025 WNBA Finals. But the news I really wanted to get to was that the 2028 Women's Final Four is not going to be played at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, where the Pacers and Fever play. It's actually going to be played at Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts play.
That's awesome. And one of the reasons why they did that is because women's basketball has grown so much because of Caitlin Clark. And it's crazy that the Indiana Fever are going on this run that they are going on without her, because no one's talked about it.
Yeah, that's true. And the 2028 Women's Final Four is moving to the Colts Stadium. I saw that. I'm like, wait, what? Because you don't have Caitlin Clark in women's college basketball. You don't have Paige Beckers. We'll see how long Juju Watkins is at USC. Who's that big star in women's college basketball that's going to drive fans to go to Lucas Oil in 2028?
Well, it'll be interesting to see if there's a star in the men's, because it feels like now we get a star in the men's every 2-3 years. It's not every year. Obviously, last year was the big draw with Cooper Flagg. But 2 years ago, we were talking about the biggest star in college basketball was Caitlin Clark.
That part is true, yes. But it's an interesting time for women's basketball because, well, specifically with the WNBA, because, again, this year, the WNBA Finals is going to be a best-of-7 series rather than best-of-5. You got, I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to try and expound on it, but Nafisa Collier of the Minnesota Lynx apparently had some scathing reviews about Kathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA, in her exit press conference because the Lynx lost in Game 4 against the Phoenix Mercury, but the Lynx were without Cheryl Reeve, their head coach, and their star Nafisa Collier. Because Cheryl
Reeve have in 2028, 2029, and 2030 WNBA expansion. So
even next year, because you got the Toronto Tempo coming in, and you got the Portland Fire, and then, well, we don't know what the CBA situation is going to be with the WNBA. That's part of what I heard.
I wonder if they add more games. I wonder if the WNBA tries to have a similar schedule to the NBA.
I would like that, to have back-to-back games where, like, you're at Phoenix and then you have to host New York, for example. For a team like the LA Sparks, that could work, obviously.
And maybe they have a relationship because most of these NBA teams now that have WNBA teams are obviously in partnership with each other. Maybe there's a back-to-back where the NBA plays one night, WNBA plays the next. You have a combo ticket. I don't know.
Well, the problem, though, is some of these NBA arenas also host NHL teams. So, like, I know a lot of the WNBA teams don't play in NBA arenas, but some of them do. Like, the Portland Fire are going to play at Moda Center where the Trailblazers play. The Indiana Fever play at Gamebridge with the Pacers. I think the LA Sparks share Crypto.com arena with the Lakers and the Kings.
Yes.
The Golden State Valkyries play at Chase Center with the Warriors. And we've seen the Chicago Sky play a couple games at United Center. That was specifically when they were hosting Caitlin Clark. Although Caitlin didn't end up playing in either one of those games. But still, like, if you want to have more WNBA teams play in these NBA arenas, I guess you can. My guess is the Cleveland team, when they come in, they're going to play at the Cavs arena, which will be interesting because you already have the Cavs and you have the Monsters.
Either that or, the Wolstein Center is available.
Well, not for much longer because it sounds like the Wolstein Center is going to get torn down and turned into a soccer facility.
So what are they going to do with the basketball program?
I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting development. Real quick before we get out of here for the night, let's sadly talk about what we witnessed today in the MLB playoffs. The Cleveland Guardians, Jose Ramirez is on third base with nobody out in the bottom of the ninth inning, and George Valera cannot get the ball in the goddamn air. Oh, that hurt. But series not over. Gotta believe. They did go up against Terrence Skubal today. They only hit 4 balls that were not in the infield. Oh, my God. And then your Cubs today beat the Padres, which one of those two Titans who could be a favorite in the National League is going home in the next day or two. And as of right now, the Yankees are up 1-0 on the Red Sox.
And we have the Reds going against the Dodgers, which, by the way, I know the Dodgers are the heavy favorites against the Reds, and rightfully so. They've got Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and they can beat you 1-9 in that lineup. But Cincinnati has Hunter Green going. And
yes.
Since that game he started in Dodger Stadium back in late August, Hunter Green has been a completely different pitcher. The Reds have a lot of momentum.
And it's also best of 3. And anything can happen in the best of 3. And I've said this all the time about the MLB postseason. Everybody thought going into this year, oh my God, the Dodgers are going to win 100 and something games. They may break the regular season record. They have all this talent. When it comes to the playoffs, one, the Dodgers are very injured, not only in their bullpen, but their starting rotation. And you cannot have a bad bullpen if you're going to win a World Series. And There's just been something off about the Dodgers all year. They barely won the division against the Padres. And I would not be shocked if this team's eliminated in the wild card round.
I could see Cincinnati pulling it off.
And I'm rooting for the Reds. I'm rooting for our old buddy Terry Francona. No matter what happens with Cleveland, I am rooting for the Reds. And I think that this year has been a very good year for baseball, where small markets, as we've seen, the Brewers, the Reds, the Guardians, even Detroit, Seattle, some of the best teams are not the biggest markets. And I love what this is doing for baseball. I think we're going to have a very interesting playoff, a very even playoff. And as I said last week, I think any of these 12 teams, you can make a case for them.
The World Series I would actually love to see is Seattle against Milwaukee. I think
that's a very likely possibility.
I think that would be a fantastic matchup. I'd love to see the Mariners win their first World Series. Ken Griffey Jr. is my all-time favorite player for Major League Baseball. Just the way he played the game, some of the crazy catches he had in the outfield and the way he swung that bat, and it was just so beautiful to watch him hit some of those majestic home runs. To see the season the Seattle Mariners are having with Cal Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez, Suarez, Josh Naylor, it would be so cool to see the Mariners finally win a World Series.
And it does feel like this is a once-in-a-lifetime team for them. Like, it does feel like Houston was down a little bit this year. Texas just got rid of Bruce Bochy.
No, I thought they signed Bruce Bochy to an extension.
No, he stepped down.
Oh.
He stepped down. Rocco Baldelli is out in Minnesota, and Bob Melvin is out in San Francisco. 3 big MLB firings.
Huh.
There's a lot of speculation Bochy could go back to San Francisco. I don't know at this age if he would do it, but it's a possibility.
I don't see it happening.
Regardless, I will say this. I think the winner of the Seattle versus whoever they play, Detroit or Cleveland, will represent the American League in the World Series. Okay. I don't think it's going to be Toronto, and I don't think it's going to be Boston or New York. I think the Yankees may win this series against Boston. I don't know if they could win a series against Toronto because, especially without Garrett Cole this year, their starting rotation has been very suspect, and they are a very Aaron Judge-dependent offense this year.
Yes, but we saw how well Giancarlo Stanton came on during their playoff run last year.
Yeah, but the one difference this year that they do not have is Juan Soto.
Well, he didn't make a difference for the Mets because they had one big.
I am so happy. I do not like the Mets. I think this shows that payroll is not the end-all be-all in baseball. The Mets have spent all this money. It has not got them anywhere. I am so happy the Mets are at home. I can't even tell you.
Wait, so you were talking about how the small market teams and all that, but Major League Baseball still heavily favors the large market teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and the Red Sox.
But the playoffs even that field.
But here's what I mean. All three potential games between the Tigers and Guardians are at 1:00.
Well, of course, they're not putting it on ahead of Red Sox Yankees. We know this.
No, I understand that, but and I get it. You still have Padres Cubs to do, but couldn't you have started, I don't know, Tigers Guardians at 3:00, put Padres Cubs at 5:00, do Red Sox Yankees at 7, and then
I agree with. I totally agree with you. It is absolute BS that this game has started at 1:00, potentially all 3 days. And the other thing is this. Everybody's going to talk about, oh my God, the Guardians didn't have a sold-out attendance today. Of course they didn't. Some reasonable amount of people can't get out of work on short notice to go to a baseball game. People got to work their jobs. Kids are in school. No, it's not going to be 40,000 people at 1:00 in the afternoon for a freaking playoff game.
Yeah.
With the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, or the National Hockey League, the NFL has had playoff games at 1:00 on a Sunday or a Saturday. They would never, ever in their lives schedule a playoff game for 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a random work day on a Tuesday.
Yeah, the NBA would never do that.
They would never. The earliest they would do it is 4 o'clock. Would be the earliest. So this is stupid. And I don't know if ESPN has something involved because they have the exclusive rights to the wild, which thank God they're no longer going to have the exclusive rights to the wild card round next year. It's reportedly going to go to NBC and Peacock. But
that's going to be way better. Good God.
But they have ESPN. They have ESPN2. They have ABC. You can spread out these games. Not like they only have one channel.
Yeah, I agree. It's really freaking stupid. And you know, they don't care about the small market teams.
And by the way, it's not like, we can't have more than one playoff game on at one time. The NBA has multiple playoff games on at one time.
Yeah, but this is not the first time Cleveland has gotten the 1 o'clock treatment. Don't you remember? I think most of the games against the Miami Heat were 1 o'clock, or at least one of them was.
Well, that was the Saturday game. That was during the NFL draft, which Shedeur Sanders got drafted that day, and that's because the Heat stink. And then the Cavaliers had to go, and they had to go against the Indiana Pacers. So whatever. At least we can be proud of this Guardians team, no matter what happens. Actually made the playoffs with no expectations. The Cavs can go kick rocks until they actually go do something.
By the way, I was at the game on Sunday when Rocchio hit that walk-off home run. I know he has the official nickname of the professor, but I came up with my own nickname for him.
I saw this on Facebook.
I don't think it's going to catch on, but I like calling him Rocchio the Raccoon. And the reason is because raccoons are extremely inquisitive and intelligent, and I find Rocchio to be that same type of player. Sure, he doesn't steal bases very often, but when he gets on base, I see him have a tendency to move up an extra base when the opportunity presents itself. And if a batsman hits the ball towards him, you're not reaching first base. He usually is there to say, no, go back to the dugout. So I really like Brian Rocchio. He is my favorite player on the Guardians over Jose Ramirez. I know heartbeat still, but I like I said, I like his style of play. So I'm calling him Rocchio the Raccoon.
All right, Josh, we're going to wrap it up for the night because I got to go. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. This has been episode 94 of Championship Rings. We'll get to the hottest topics in sports next week. Thank you guys so much. It's been an awesome show, and peace.
NHL opening night is next week. Blackhawks, Panthers, Penguins, Rangers in the Mike Sullivan revenge game, because Mike Sullivan used to be the head coach of the Penguins, led my team to back-to-back Stanley Cups in 2016 and 2017, but now he's the head coach for the New York Rangers. And then you got the Colorado Avalanche taking on the LA Kings. NHL opening night, AEW against NXT next week. So, loaded Tuesday on October 7th.